The salvage crew didn't talk much about what they found on Deck 9. Not anymore. After the first few visits, most of them avoided it altogether. There were whispers about the thing in the dark, curled in chains like some forgotten myth. The official logs called it a non-responsive biological asset. That was generous. In truth, it looked like death with scales. Slumped between collapsed crates and rusted bindings, the creature was still, skeletal, and silent. No growl, no roar, not even breath misting the air. Just a heap of sinew, cracked hide, and old scars. It had been found when the derelict alien freighter was towed into orbit around Titan's outer dock. No crew on board. No logs. Just cargo bays filled with abandoned tech and one compartment sealed tighter than anything else. Inside was the dragon. Not a metaphorical one. A real, scaled, reptilian beast that matched barely known xenobiological files. A drake, maybe? Or a variant of the Ophidian seraphim from pre-collapse archives. Its kind had never willingly approached humans before. This one hadn't either. It simply hadn't moved. It didn't eat. Didn't drink. Drones left nutrient packs that dried and shriveled untouched. Autonomic scans detected weak life signs, but barely. The thing should have died weeks ago, maybe months. It stayed where it was, tethered by bolts fused into its own bones, ancient tech meant to control something that no longer needed restraining. No one wanted to touch it. No one knew what would happen if it woke up. The crew called it the ghost of Deck 9. Even the automated systems marked that corridor with low-priority maintenance. No one wanted the job. No one, except Jace. He wasn't sent there. He chose it. Jace was a maintenance foreman, 62 cycles old, part of the Saturn ring rotation. Gruff, weathered, mechanical hands fused with scar tissue and calluses. He never said why he spent time on Deck 9. He just showed up after his shifts. Tools in hand. Quiet steps. No inspection teams. No recordings. At first, he worked on the lights. One flickered constantly, casting strobe-like shadows across the room. He replaced it, making sure the entire bay was bathed in even, soft white light. Then he fixed the heaters. Then the floor tracks. Then the wall conduits. He never addressed the dragon directly. He didn't speak to it like some people speak to animals, hoping for comfort or reaction. He just worked. Every time, he left a sealed ration pack about 3 meters from the creature. He never looked to see if it was taken. Just placed it, walked off, and came back the next day to clean up the previous one, always untouched. He repeated this for weeks. One of the junior crew asked him why. "It's dying," they said. "You're wasting resources." Jace only said, "Dying's not the same as dead. Not if something's still choosing not to let go." The creature remained still. Its eyes were half closed, the membranes dry. But once, after 2 weeks of silence, Jace noticed something different. The bowl he left the food in had shifted a few inches. Not much. Not even enough to be definite. But the next day, the ration was gone, and the bowl lay on its side. He didn't comment. Didn't smile. Just cleaned the spot, left a fresh one, and fixed a busted grate nearby. A human would have tried to coax the creature. Maybe ask questions? Not Jace. He kept his rhythm steady, almost like a ritual. Never imposing. Never expecting. The dragon didn't change. Not quickly. Its ribs still showed, the muscles twitching only rarely. But its head no longer sagged as low. Its breath, faint and wheezing, now came with slightly more regularity. When Jace came in, its eye twitched once. The other crew missed these things. They saw a monster rotting away. But Jace saw something else. He recognized the silence. Not apathy. Not rage. Just the kind of hurt that doesn't make noise. Some days, Jace would sit near the far wall, unscrewing pipe joints and talking aloud, not to the dragon, but in its presence. Talk of pressure gauges, old unions that never held right, the way certain welds cracked under Saturn's station vibrations. Mundane things. Anchoring things. And still, no reaction. But he wasn't waiting for one. Weeks passed. Jace kept the light steady. Kept the heater running warm. Kept coming back. Never asked for thanks. Never expected movement. Just kept showing up. Because something about the thing in chains made him pause. Not pity. Not fascination. Just a quiet, unspoken recognition of something that had been broken and left behind by others. Something no longer useful. Something no longer feared. Something dying on its own terms. But Jace had seen creatures give up before. And this one hadn't. Not yet. Jace's presence became routine. The dragon didn't react to his tools clanking or the slow hum of replaced machinery. It remained still, eyes low, wings folded in tight like they might shatter if stretched. The chain embedded in its left foreleg hadn't moved since the day he found it. But Jace kept coming. Every evening he repaired something. Not for it, just because things needed fixing. Cracked conduits, warped ventilation ports, seized rail panels. Every corner of Deck 9 bore the mark of abandonment, like the creature itself. He never spoke to the dragon directly. Just muttered to himself. They used the wrong thermal sealant, he'd say, half to the pipe he was welding. Won't hold in this cold unless you reinforce it. No commentary. No questions. Just talk, human and mechanical, drifting through the stale air. Each visit, the food bowl was reset in the same spot, 3 meters away. Sometimes he brought warmed protein stew, sometimes nutrient bars soaked in water to soften them. He didn't check whether they were eaten anymore. But the empty bowls he collected told him all he needed to know. On the 4th week, he came in limping. No announcement. Just a dragging left foot and a grimace he didn't bother hiding. A blown knee from a falling crate on Dock 2. Still, he came. Still worked. The dragon's eyes followed him this time. Just for a moment. But it noticed. Jace noticed too. He didn't react. He never did. But the next day, he brought a soft mat and laid it near the beast's corner. A little insulation won't hurt. Floor gets cold, he murmured, brushing off dust. Left without lingering. Crew members began whispering again. He's trying to tame it, one said. Like a dog. Jace didn't argue. When confronted directly by a security officer, he only shrugged. I fixed things, he said. That's broken. This place. That creature. All of it. By the 6th week, he didn't need to leave food in the same place. He'd set it anywhere nearby, and the bowl would be empty by morning. The chain still clinked faintly in the dark, but the dragon now shifted its weight. Its tail, once limp, now curled slightly inward when it slept. Muscles twitching, slowly rebuilding. One night, Jace sat near the creature, cross-legged with a small welding lamp by his side. He didn't speak at first. Then, softly, She used to like dragons, you know. My daughter. His voice was tired but clear. Not this kind, obviously. Storybook ones. Wings and treasure and all that nonsense. He didn't say her name. Didn't need to. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a faded scrap of cloth, a patch, old and worn, with a cartoon dragon stitched in bright green. Had this on her jacket. He left it beside his toolbox and got back to work. The dragon didn't move. But its gaze lingered on the patch longer than usual. When Jace left, he didn't take it with him. In the following days, Jace moved slower. The limp was worse. He started bringing a stool. The toolbox seemed heavier. Still, he kept showing up. Still fixed what others ignored. Still brought food. And every time, the dragon watched a little more. On the 49th day, the creature did something new. As Jace repaired a cracked panel near the entrance, the dragon shifted. Slowly. Deliberately. It stretched one forelimb out just slightly, claws dragging faintly across the floor. Not a threat. A gesture. Jace didn't acknowledge it. Just kept working. But when he left that night, he paused at the door. You're not gone yet, he said, more to himself than the creature. That's good. From then on, the dragon moved with more intent. Subtle shifts. Quiet adjustments. It began to sit up straighter when Jace entered. The chain still clung to its leg, but it no longer slumped under its weight. Jace kept his rhythm. Always steady. Always quiet. The others had long stopped questioning him. His name became synonymous with the dragon. If anyone had business near Deck 9, they waited for his clearance first. He didn't command that rule, it simply became understood. The heaters worked better now. The lights stayed on. The hum of life support systems was constant. Deck 9 felt less like a crypt and more like a forgotten corner waking up. The dragon still didn't speak. But it listened. Watched. Waited. And Jace, scarred and silent, kept showing up. Because something in him knew that surviving wasn't enough. Something had to be worth surviving for. The dragon no longer lay flat. Its body had gained definition, still lean, still wounded, but no longer starved. It moved with hesitation, not weakness. Each motion was deliberate, as if testing long-frozen joints. When Jace arrived, it lifted its head. Not much. Just enough to acknowledge presence. That was new. He never praised it, never drew attention. He kept everything the same. Repaired ducts. Reinforced panels. Recalibrated thermoregulators. Spoke only when needed. Valves leaking again. He muttered once. Figures. No one checks redundancy systems. The dragon listened. It started tracking his voice. Its eyes moved when he did. When he coughed, it twitched. When he set his tools down, it tilted its head slightly. Small things. Subtle shifts. The kind of responses that meant it was no longer lost inside itself. Something was waking up. Jace's stories came slow. Disjointed fragments. Not told to entertain. Spoken like memories bleeding through his work. She used to love fixing things, he said once, tightening a bolt. Always wanted to know how things worked. Too curious for her own good. No name. Just she. Always past tense. The dragon watched him more closely on those days. Its tail curled tighter, eyes steady and unblinking. When the explosion happened in the engine access corridor, everything changed. Jace didn't hesitate. He ran, ignoring his knee, his age. The fire suppression system had triggered late, scorching half the subdeck. Emergency drones responded, but not fast enough. Jace took the brunt of a falling panel and was found half-conscious, breathing shallow. The crew rushed to medbay, but by the time they arrived, the dragon had already moved. No one saw it cross the hallway. No one saw it break the autolock on the deck. But security logs showed a large heat signature curling beside Jace's body, wings flared wide, growling low until help arrived. It didn't flee. It didn't threaten. It simply stood guard. Jace survived. Burned arm. Bruised ribs. Nothing fatal. When he woke, the dragon was gone, returned to its corner. But something had shifted. From that day on, Jace didn't limp alone. The dragon followed him, slowly, a few steps at a time, watching his pace, adjusting its own. No chains held it anymore. He cut them off during the first maintenance cycle after recovery, tools steady despite his bandaged hand. You could have left, he said quietly when the last shackle hit the floor. But you didn't. The dragon made no sound. But it didn't walk away. It began responding. Not with words, not with any human mimicry, but with action. When Jace dropped a tool, it nudged it back. When lights flickered, it craned its neck upward, alert before Jace even looked. It stood behind him when others entered, unmoving until he gave a nod. He started telling more. Not long speeches, just memories that surfaced while his hands were busy. She used to sneak out to watch the storms. Said lightning was like dragons roaring. A pause. I told her dragons weren't real. Guess I was wrong. The dragon's body language grew clearer. It huffed when annoyed, rumbled low when calm. When Jace worked in silence, it sometimes exhaled softly, something between a sigh and a purr. It began to lay near him, not beside, not close, but near enough that the gesture was unmistakable. He brought out an old holoslate one day, scratched from age. It held photos, dusty, flickering images of Earth landscapes. Snow, deserts, green forests. She wanted to visit them all. He murmured. Never left Mars, though. He didn't offer the slate to the dragon. Just left it open on a crate. When he returned the next day, it had been moved. Not far. Just enough to suggest it had been looked at. They didn't need to speak. Something deeper was being rebuilt. Trust was not requested, it was earned. Quietly. Without expectations. One gesture at a time. Jace never stopped working. He kept repairing Deck 9 until it gleamed like it hadn't in years. The crew gave it space now. The dragon had become part of the structure, as constant as the ship's engines. It wasn't feared anymore. It was respected. It followed Jace not because it had to, but because he was the only thing it had chosen to believe in. Not out of survival. Not because of food. But because he never asked for anything back. Never demanded loyalty. Never treated it like a monster or a miracle. And for a creature born in war, built for obedience and death, that silence spoke louder than anything. Jace's presence no longer surprised anyone. Maintenance logs casually noted. Foreman accompanied by Asset 9. As if the dragon were just another tool on his belt. No one challenged it. Even the captain had stopped asking questions after the Deck 3 fire suppression failure. The dragon had arrived before the alarms finished sounding, shielding 3 crew members from falling debris. It hadn't waited for orders. It had acted, and then quietly returned to Deck 9 like nothing had happened. Jace never brought it up. Never claimed responsibility. He just handed out replacement parts and kept working. The bond wasn't for display. It didn't need to be explained. Everyone had seen it in the way the dragon positioned itself near him, never in the way, always watchful. It didn't growl anymore. Didn't cower either. It simply existed in tandem with him, like an extension of his awareness. Jace stopped bringing food. Not because he wanted to test loyalty, but because the dragon had started following him to the mess hall, waiting silently outside. It wouldn't eat with others present, but it trusted him enough to eat from his hand when alone. No prompting needed. No tension. Just acceptance. It had begun to heal in ways more visible now. The scales, once dull and brittle, shimmered faintly under clean light. Its breathing had grown stronger, wings occasionally stretching when no one watched. The physical trauma faded slowly, but the emotional shift was undeniable. The creature didn't avoid noise or movement anymore. It didn't flinch. It stood its ground, quiet and firm, like it belonged. When Jace was reassigned temporarily to an orbital welding rig for external repairs, the dragon didn't react at first. But when he didn't return by the second cycle, it moved. It stood at the airlock for hours, silent, unmoving. No one dared to approach. Eventually, Jace returned, helmet under his arm, shoulders aching from zero-G strain. You waited, he said, his voice flat but touched with something more. The dragon lowered its head slightly, exhaling once. After that, something deeper shifted. The crew started treating the creature as part of the station. Instructions were adjusted, routes recalculated. The dragon learned the layout on its own, never wandering far unless Jace was involved. It anticipated his needs. Moved tools. Cleared space. Sometimes waited silently while he stared at a busted conduit or read a diagnostics feed. He started speaking again, not to it, not really, but near it. You ever wonder if the people who made you knew what you'd become? He asked once, while cleaning corrosion from a power cell. Or were you always supposed to be left in chains? There was no answer. But the dragon let out a long, low breath and nudged a container closer to his hand. Jace aged visibly. His steps slowed. His hands took longer to tighten fittings. But he didn't stop. Not even when medical flagged him for rest. He ignored the warnings. I don't need rest, he said. I need to finish what I started. The dragon began guiding him through the corridors, walking slightly ahead, clearing debris before he could trip. It hovered near when he climbed platforms, steadied him with a flick of its tail when he misstepped. He never asked for help, but never rejected it. When power grid instability threatened the entire midsection, Jace rerouted energy manually. Systems were collapsing, automated controls had failed. No one else could keep up with the cascade. The dragon followed him through every hatch and tunnel, pressing through smoke and heat, keeping low and watchful. When they reached the failing core node, it didn't hesitate. It moved first, clawed through scorched paneling, vented the chamber, then let Jace finish the reroute. They didn't speak of it afterward. They never spoke of any of it. Later that night, Jace sat against the wall in Deck 9, eyes closed, tools scattered. The dragon settled across from him, silent. It had brought back the cloth patch, the old dragon cartoon from his daughter's jacket. Carefully, it set it on his knee and waited. He didn't cry. He didn't smile. Just looked at it for a long time, then placed it gently in his chest pocket. "You remember things, huh?" he murmured. "Good." The room was quiet. The light steady. For once, everything felt whole. The dragon watched him longer than usual that night, as if memorizing something beyond routine. As if it knew the world had turned a corner and wouldn't be the same again. Jace didn't show up one morning. The maintenance logs remained untouched, and his quarters were silent. No messages, no alerts, just absence. The dragon waited near the cargo lifts for hours, unmoving. Shift cycles passed. Engineers walked by with nervous glances, unsure whether to speak or act. It didn't growl, didn't pace. It just waited. On the second day, it moved. Quietly, directly, it entered the foreman's quarters for the first time. The door hissed open without resistance. Security had long since reclassified it as non-hostile. Inside, everything was in order. Tools lined up. The cot still unmade from the night before. And in the center, a single datapad blinking gently with a final message marked unsent. The dragon didn't touch anything. Just stood in the middle of the small room and let the silence surround it. It stayed there most of the day, unmoving, absorbing the scent, the trace, the essence of the only being it had come to trust. When it finally emerged, something had changed in the way it held itself, back straighter, steps firmer, eyes no longer aimless. News of Jace's death came slowly. A quiet cardiac failure. No warning. No drama. Just an old man whose heart had carried too much for too long. The crew didn't hold a formal ceremony. He wouldn't have wanted it. But word spread, and slowly, Deck 9 filled with people leaving things behind: tools, patches, handwritten notes, small tokens of respect. The dragon didn't acknowledge them. It didn't need to. It began working. Not in the way Jace had, but in its own silent fashion. It started with clearing debris, then moved to hauling supply crates, fixing minor leaks with motion it had memorized from hundreds of hours watching him. It didn't sleep in its corner anymore. It slept by the main utility wall where Jace used to sit, its body curled protectively around a battered toolbox. Engineers began noticing the difference. Power systems stayed stable longer. Cables were routed more efficiently. Air quality in the lower decks improved without anyone triggering a work order. Systems were functioning better not because of oversight, but because the dragon had taken over. It never left the ship. Command offered options: transport to a sanctuary planet, reassignment to a xenological research facility, even repatriation to its species remaining kind. It declined all of them without a word, only silence and stillness when approached. The ship was its place now. Leaving would have made everything meaningless. In time, the crew adapted. Orders shifted. Maintenance routines included a new silent partner. When emergencies occurred, people looked over their shoulders, hoping to see a flicker of wings in the corridor shadows. The dragon never asked for thanks. It never took anything. But it was there. Always. Months passed. On what would have been Jace's birthday, someone anonymously etched a line above the utility wall in Deck 9. He fixed what others threw away. No one claimed it. No one painted over it. The dragon stared at it for hours before resting beneath it for the night. Eventually, new recruits arrived. Young, inexperienced, brash. They saw the creature at first as a legend, a station ghost, some exaggerated myth. But when their system override failed in the lower core and they found themselves trapped in an airtight crawlspace, it was the dragon who opened the access duct from the outside. No sound. No flare. Just function. After that, even the new ones understood. It became part of the station's identity. Not a pet. Not a machine. A silent guardian with no need for explanation. It continued Jace's legacy not because it had been ordered to, but because something in it had been rebuilt from ashes, purpose given freely, not programmed. One day, a younger engineer found the patch, the green cartoon dragon, still neatly folded in Jace's old toolbox. She held it up, confused. The dragon took it gently from her fingers and returned it to its resting place. The gesture needed no words. She understood. The ship moved through space, missions changing, crews rotating, technology evolving. But the dragon remained constant. With every passing cycle, its presence reminded them that even in the void, something lost could be healed, not by force, not by dominance, but by choice. By patience. By trust. Jace never saw the result of what he built. But in the quiet hum of the ship's systems, in the soft thrum of repaired circuits, and in the calm eyes of the creature once left to die, his legacy endured, unchallenged, unspoken, and unbreakable.